quote from Major.
Hey guys, welcome to Win Reality's booth here at 2021 ABCA. As you guys can see, I'm standing inside of our application in Win Reality Field. We're in a mixed reality environment. So we are in Austin, Texas. Sorry that we can't be in person with you guys this year, but wanted to spend time today in the first day of really talking about practice in the strike zone. And when we look at today's, or rather this segment in today is really how do we know or how do we work on making consistent quality contact? When we look at the ball flight in earlier segments, we talked about release point, the first 10 feet, and then we talked about timing and then the next 10, 20 feet. And then now what we're really focusing on is that last 10 feet, right? What needs to happen? What needs to go in to the approach, the rhythm, the timing, to make sure I can put myself in a position to make consistent quality contact. Dr. Beatty's with me, Director of Performance Science, really making sure that everything we do, we vet out from a data and science perspective, continue to research, continue to look at the data we're getting back on the back end and making sure we're improving on our application, listening to our customers, and as we discussed just a little while ago, we know that what we do is actually having a positive impact in translating to the field. So, Dr. Beatty, if we look at the ball flight, right, we talked earlier about the release point, what we're doing to set ourselves up, a consistent routine with your eyes where I'm looking. Now we're getting in as I'm standing in our field. Really, if you look at the cutout of the field out in front of the plate, as it crosses the plate in that last 10 feet, what's going on visually or what's going on in the mind, as a player gets ready, or in this case, probably is already ready to make a decision for that last 10 feet to make sure we're making consistent quality contact?
Yeah, these are great questions, Ryan. The way I like to break down the ball flight sequence as far as the visual side of things goes, there's really three components of the ball flight. There's picking up the ball right out of the hand. And what that allows batters to do is really just start that tracking process. If they can't pick it up out of the hand right away, they're automatically behind. Yep. And then the next phase is kind of that, that first half of the ball flight or so, where the batter's really just trying to track it, trying to pick up the trajectory, pick up any action that might be on the pitch, and really kind of pick up that velocity. And then right around that point, a decision has to be made on whether or not that swing is going to be executed. And then once you get to that latter part, or that last 10 feet or so of the ball flight, the ball travels at such a velocity that the head and the eyes can't actually keep up with the ball flight and continue to track it all the way across the plate. So what the research has shown, the best batters that are able to track the pitch and really kind of get a good idea of where the ball crosses the plate, they do what is called a predictive saccade, or really just a predictive eye movement. So they're tracking the ball, they see it about 10 to 15 feet away from the plate, and then they have to move their eyes very quickly to where they think the ball is going to cross the plate, or where they think their bat is going to make contact with the ball if they're initiating that swing. And so what batters do to get good at that over time is really just seeing a lot of pitches over the course of their playing career. The more they see pitches, the more they see these different models of pitches. So the more they see a slider or a curveball or a fastball, a two-seamer, a cutter, they're better able to predict because they've seen that model over and over and over again. So once they're able to identify what pitch type it is and the velocity it's moving at and that trajectory, if they've seen that model enough, then what they can do is get their eyes and their head to where that ball is going to cross the plane, or where they're going to put their bat onto where they think that ball is going to be in space.
Yeah, and I think, I kind of make a joke here, but I think as a former player, and I've heard that over and over, and I've had this discussions with a lot of other guys that play, and they say there's no physical way you can actually see the ball hit the bat. And I say this, and I think all of us that played feel like there were times I thought, and I knew, right? I knew, and I don't know if it was just kind of that illusion or what was going in my mind, but there were certain at-bats I had that I knew up and down, like I saw now, scientifically, it might have not have been possible, but it's something I heard over and over. It's like, no, there's no physical way, or it's not humanly possible to do that. So when you think about that, I think it takes me a little bit further in our previous discussions of saying, okay, if that's in fact, and I accept it, that maybe I didn't. The one or two times I barreled up a ball in my career, maybe I thought I did, and I was just hopeful I did. But there's several things we have to do to get ready. And when we talked about practicing the strike zone, and particularly this segment, is how do you make consistent contact? Well, I think there's a couple of things that go into that, right? One is knowing where you're really good. I think as hitters, and not getting in mechanics at all, but every hitter has strengths and weaknesses. And I think for the young hitter, we think we can control the whole plate. You know, if they throw it anywhere on this plate, I can hit it. So I think the first thing we talk about is we understand practicing the strike zone is, where am I good at? You know, how does my swing path work? Am I a good pull hitter? And if I am a good pull hitter, then get up there and try to pull and look for something that's going to be middle in so I can pull it. Am I a good middle away or a gap to gap guy? Great, then let's look for those pitches. And when we practice the strike zone, and particularly what we're doing with Win Reality, is the more pitches I see and the quicker I can recognize that pitch in the area of the zone I'm good at, the better I get. It takes a while, and talk from personal experience, I had spent a lot of time playing, I was a middle away guy, right? I wasn't a great pull guy, but I'd spent a lot of time, years, trying to become a great pull guy. And then I finally had a hitting coach that said, why are you working on your weaknesses? Give that away. How many times is that pitcher going to pound you consistently right on the inside corner? Not a whole lot. You had Mariano Rivera that could just throw that same pitch over and over, and no matter who it was, nobody can touch it. The rest of the pitchers can't consistently hit that. So when we talk about making consistent quality contact, I think it's understanding our strengths and weaknesses, and then from understanding my strengths and weaknesses, getting inside and practicing that area of the strike zone so I can see a volume of pitchers over and over again. So I know almost when that ball's coming out of the hand, I know from where it's starting, where it's going to finish, and it gives me that much more time to go ahead and make a decision and put a good quality swing on it and barrel it up, right? Get it on the fat part of the bat. Dr. Beatty, anything to add around? Well, first, you could probably tell me I'm wrong and that there's no way I did see the ball hit the bat. I think there was maybe twice I saw it. But anything to add around consistent quality contact?
Yeah, definitely. I think you may have seen it a couple times.
Attaboy. There was twice. That
yeah,
was
twice. Right? Theoretically, not to get too academic, but theoretically, it's possible.
Oh, nice.
You just have to be perfect.
Yep.
So those eyes have to be exactly where that barrel and that ball meet, and they have to be there at the right time to see it.
Yep.
And it's really hard to do. It's hard enough to see the ball cross the plate when you're not swinging. But when you get all those forces and those loads going in that direction, and your body's really moving around its center of mass at that velocity, and you're trying to keep your head stable enough to where your brain's going to process that visual information, it's really hard to do. Which brings up the other kind of really cool thing that the brain will do is it will use those other models that it's seen. And if you get that haptic feedback, or you get that feedback from the bat making that solid contact, it's barreled up, your brain sometimes will fill in the gaps and say, you know what, you thought the ball was right here, and you've got your head where it needs to be, even though your eyes may not be processing this information right now. It'll input that image that you've had from those models in the past, which just really goes to reiterate how important it is to see as many pitches as possible and to see as many game pitches as possible. I think the other really cool thing that is involved in this is, we talked about this in the last session, the difference between two-dimensional and three-dimensional or virtual reality practice, and how important that is, and how important it is for batters that put on our headset to really treat it like a real at-bat and get into their mechanics like they would in a real at-bat. When you think about how important it is to calibrate to the pitches and the path that those pitches are going, the velocity, your swing mechanics have such a big impact on that, because anything you change in your swing mechanics is going to impact where your head is relative to the mound and relative to where the pitcher is. So as mechanics are developed, the way you perceive the world around you is going to be impacted because your head and your position relative to everything else is going to change. So getting into that virtual space, using those mechanics that you've trained and you've automatized over time, and coupling those, we call that perception action coupling in the skill acquisition and really that kind of that cognitive skill acquisition space. Coupling all of those components together is so critically important. You can't do that in two-dimensional space, but you can do that when you get the virtual reality headset on. You're in a three-dimensional immersive environment where the pitches are flying across the zone at real velocity and real movement with our physics engine that matches up to a pitch that lived in the real world. It gives you the ability to do that, and it gives you the ability to train both the cognitive strategies that you've got going on, but also the motor or the movement strategies that are associated with that when we're talking about getting your head and your eyes in the right position and keeping them stable as you track those pitches and doing that predictive saccade or that predictive eye movement to see that pitch cross the plate as much as possible and build out those models that you're going to rely on over time to be more accurate in your predictions moving forward.
So the one thing I took away from all that is that I wasn't crazy, and I actually did see did see contact, which is good because for these last 20 years I thought maybe I didn't see it. But I think to add on to that, right? How do we make consistent quality contact? I think, and let's talk about what everybody knows. Hitting is 95% mental, right? And what we're talking about here is training the mind and be comfortable in training the mind to be confident. And the reason people say hitting's 90, 95, sometimes it's all mental, is because the confidence it takes to step inside a box, let somebody 60 feet away from you get up there and throw the ball as hard as they possibly can, you take a round bat and try to hit it hard, right? To be a confident hitter, how do you become a confident hitter? You practice, you practice, you practice, you practice over and over again. So when we think of consistent quality contact, you have to practice the most important part of being a hitter, practice the strike zone, right? I've had coaches throughout my life and say, you know, the reason that guy's really good is he puts the work in, or you listen to athletes, no matter what sport is, they're gym rats, or they're always on the field. And every time you see them on the field, and they're confident when they step on the field ready for competition because they've put all the work in that's necessary to be confident, right? I'm not doubting my ability. I'm not getting in the box and saying, well, I'm not sure, I didn't practice enough. If you want to be a great hitter, you practice almost nonstop. And that doesn't mean getting in the box or getting on a tee and doing flips and just swinging the bat. It means practicing the mental side of the game, right? Being disciplined to make sure you're seeing pitches every single day. Being disciplined about getting in there and understanding your strengths and weaknesses. Put the work in. We had a question earlier, what about the off season? And we're not being crazy here that there should be some break away from it physically so your body can recharge it, and to a degree mentally. But off seasons are typically really short, couple weeks, a month. You get away from it, you take a break, and then you're right back in there, seeing as many pitches as you possibly can and really challenging yourself. You know, getting in there and competing against the other users, the other players we have in there, seeing 200,000 pitches a week. Are you better than other guys out there? Are you more accurate? Are you getting in there? And the other thing is, are you more consistent than everybody? We'll see guys get in there for a day and then put it down for a month. Well, that's not going to help be consistent. You know, put consistent contact with the barrel, with the meat of the bat, right? Anybody can get up there and hit the ball. Certain hitters get up there, and it seems like every time they swing the bat, they're barreling it up. Well, how are they barreling it up? They're picking out good pitches. They're confident in their approach. They step into the box, and they dictate at bats, right? You can see it. You could watch, if all of us had been on the game, you could watch a guy walk up to the batter's box and know that kid believes he can hit, right? He's not in there jumping around or really, you know, scared or nervous or takes a pitch. You know, they're in there, they're real calm. I'm taking pitches, ball or strike, almost as if they're in control. You know, I've had this debate and we've talked about it. Oh, who's the best hitter ever? When you watch Barry Bonds hit, he set the home run record and the walk record in the same year. Pitchers were absolutely scared to death to throw the ball over the plate. all of the best hitters, Manny Ramirez, and it goes right down through college, through high school, you can tell a kid walk up and be confident. Well, how do they become confident? They worked at being a good hitter. What we're now bringing to the market, you can work on pitch recognition. You can work on practice in the strike zone anywhere in the world at any time and work on getting better. A couple of things to highlight as we're going to transition to a couple other segments. We've always got some individuals available. If you come to our booth, click on you want to talk to somebody individually, talk about your program, we're available. We'll be around pretty much all day and night, even if it's after 3 o'clock and you guys want to talk to one of us, we're going to be here. Be happy to talk to you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to chat. If you want us to address any topics, feel free to chat. As we wrap this segment up and consistent quality contact, Dr. Beatty, anything else to add as we take probably a 3 to 5 minute turnaround and we'll be right back in here with you guys.
No, you covered it, Ryan. You can't beat having a confident batter at the plate. And, one way to do that is to be in control of your decisions. So no better way to do that than to practice.
And I learned I wasn't crazy this. We got somebody that just before we transition out said they like the competitions. As you guys know, one thing we hadn't talked about, we're constantly up to date in our application. We love where we're at with it, but trust us and know that it's going to get better. We continue to do releases. Competitions is something we rolled out, I want to say 2 months ago. We actually had Yastrzemski in there competing against amateur players, college players. And so when we roll out our competitions, it's very likely as individuals jump in there, you can be competing against college players, pro players, and some of the younger guys really love it because they get a chance to see what other people are doing. So great feedback. We appreciate that you guys like our competitions. Keep working in there and know that we're going to continue to update the app. We'll have more competitions coming out. All of our winners of our competitions usually end up getting a really great prize. I know that the custom-made glove got sent out recently, and what a nice looking glove there. So yeah, great feedback there. I'm glad you guys like our competitions. And we think, if I could touch on that, the reason we do that, right? I think I talked about confidence as a hitter, but I would say as important or the most important thing that I've seen from hitters that are very successful is they compete, right? You don't give away at bats. No matter who you're facing, you're in there and you realize it's me against the pitcher as a hitter. So when we talk about competitions and why we like them so much here at Win Reality, it's if you're not competing, you may be the best at 12 years old or 14-year-old or 16-year-olds or 18-year-old, but the higher you go up, the talent becomes just as good and in some cases not better. And what starts to separate ball players is how well they like to compete and embrace competing. Some players shy away from it and some players charge into it. We've always, all of us that have played or been around a game, you had those teammates and it didn't matter what they were hitting. It didn't matter what was going on. When it was time to compete and it was a high pressure situation, there's certain players all of us wanted at the plate, right? We wanted on our team, on our side, in the box, getting ready to go. And so a lot of us here are former athletes, former professional athletes, and one thing that we all probably share and still do, we've got competitions we do across the office, and I'd say more than one time, there's been people leave the office that don't want to talk to the people they lost to till the next day. So great feedback there. I'm glad you guys love the competitions. Again, hang with us and know that we'll continue to update the app, continue to have more competitions, and get you guys engaged so the ball players can compete. Again, thanks again, you guys, for coming by. We're not going to be going long. We just do a quick set change, recalibrate, and come right back to you. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Hello, everybody. I'm Andrew McCurran,
Adam Ravenel.
Chris Fiaschetti.
and thanks for joining us here. We are in the Win Reality podcast room here in beautiful Austin, Texas. We appreciate you spending time and kind of learning more about Win Reality. We've all been here about the same time. Fish
Yeah.
just got his master's.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Rav and I finished playing about a year or two ago, and lucky to be here on kind of the cutting edge of baseball training and development. So, so I guess we'll just kind of we'll just see where this goes. A little Joe Rogan style, let it flow, and make it interesting in here.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about what we got going on here, everything that's super cool.
Yep. So we've just kind of pivoted as a company to get more into really a lot more affordable, better product that's going to allow us to allow players to develop faster, encompass hitting, obviously the vision, pitch recognition piece, which is so important,
Yep.
and then tying it all together. So Rav more on the data analytics, performance coaching, me more interaction with clients and prospective clients, teams, coaches, Fish. We kind of do it all. Wear a lot of different hats. But yeah, I mean, I guess we can ask questions. I can ask y'all questions. You can ask me, and just kind of see, where this thing goes. So we'll start with Rav. Put you on the spot. So you do a lot. You have a lot of interaction from pro, college,
I do.
people at home. I mean,
Yeah.
kind of talk about how that has worked for you, what you like, and what you've learned. I'm sure you're learning a lot too.
Yeah. No, it's great. So we kind of have like a wide spectrum of clients, which is awesome because you get to interact with, everyone in the baseball world. And that's from parents with their kids at home. That goes to Division I college programs, some of the top college programs in the country we work with, and then all the way up to the MLB level, which is just really cool listening to how people are applying our technology and how people have been so creative with how they incorporate it in their existing practice. So it's really great being able to interact with our existing clients and hear their stories and then help with our expertise. Obviously, Andrew and I played up until we were professional, well, minor leagues for me, but big leagues for Andrew. And then Chris played a good amount of his life as well. So we've just been around the game for a while, and it's nice, seeing the game evolve into this technology crazed world and how we're applying, what Fish does, which is a lot of data, a lot of looking at numbers and seeing how people that have used our product have actually seen a transfer to in-game performance and an increase in their hitters' ability to, own the strike zone is what we talk about a lot. But I found it incredible, being a application that is doing something different in the sport and doing something that's super important and not necessarily easily available to hitters. So we're really just giving people an advantage against pitchers, which is hilarious because, Andrew and I were pitchers for the longest time.
Flip sides.
And now we kind of flipped over to the dark side. But that's kind of just a general idea of what my day-to-day here with Win Reality is. And, I'm enjoying every bit of it.
So Fish, we'll let you kind of talk about, obviously you see a lot more data.
Yeah.
That's kind of your forte here, but just talk about some interesting things you've seen in the last couple of years as far as players using Win versus not using Win, kind of how the, seeing a live pitch on demand can really help your offensive stats. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to hit better and win games.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's been one of the coolest things about my job, like just digging into data and seeing how, like Rav talked about, all these clients that have in-game performance success stories. Like they come from the big leagues to, key youth players playing in tournaments, and overwhelmingly everything has been super positive. Like I know we've done some studies. We've done some studies, and like at the major league level, with people using our product, we see like 12% increase in, at least in average on base percentage, slugging, OPS. Teams win at a higher clip. Same thing in college. We did a study about college teams that used our system. Basically, they would win more and end up being conference champions, which goes into, like, if you look in college, you have your regional and your super regional. like 70% of teams that host a super regional and host a regional win the regional. So you got to go win a conference. Like you got to do what you got to put your team in the best success. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, you got to score more runs than the other team. Got to get on base more. Everything the data says is that's what we do. We help teams get better at that. And then I think some of the cool stories too are the ones that, you know, are youth players that are like, hey, I'm so much more confident than I've ever been just by, like, I didn't even take that, you know, we've been through the quarantine and everything. We've had kids, and like, I know Rav will touch on this, but like, we've had kids come in and say, hey, like, I haven't seen live pitching in 3 weeks. I've only used your system. And I rake right now. Like, it's crazy. So, you know, validated from data and validated from user experience. And like that combination has been awesome to see.
Yeah. And I think it's amazing, man, like where we've come and shoot, really 6 months, but 2 years if you look at kind of on a wider scope, from major league clients, just a couple, to now an 8-year-old kid, whatever, at home can use the exact same training tool that World Series champions, MLB MVPs use on a daily basis for, you know, $25.
Yeah.
So I just think what we're doing, the game, working with high-level athletes and even younger players and coaches, players want to be able to train all the time, and training in a game environment at home against a live arm is invaluable. So
I think one of the coolest things too, and I know when you talk to people, you talk about this a lot, but like with when you're able to train like the different phases of ball flight, and that's basically never been able to be done before. And I know that's why we have these metrics that Rav and I go over about our clients, like how they're doing in the system, and like, hey, are you doing well in early pitch phase, right? Are you doing well in the middle? Are you doing well at the end? Like, are you tracking the ball the whole way? Because you're not, like, you can be as strong as you want. If you can't see the ball all the way into the bat and square it up and make solid contact, like, you're never going to be successful.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we saw it all the time. You saw it in college. How many guys came into campus, you were like, dude, this guy should be on the football team. Hitting balls 500 feet in DP, flipping them out. Yeah. Gets into the game, and he can't lay off a slider in the dirt. So it's like, yeah, you put in all this work to stay healthy, get big and strong, eat right. Yeah. This is the other half. You got to see the ball well. Doesn't matter how perfect your swing is. Yeah. And that's at the core, really, of what we're trying to do here. Confidence, man.
What was it that Goldie said? You got to find a way to train the strike zone?
That's it. Train the strike zone. That's what it comes down to. You can probably touch on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest points I harp on with our new clients is what we're really trying to do, as much as, you know, the whole cognitive part of, you know, your perception of pitches and understanding what that pitch looks like, you know, where it's got to start to be a strike. All of that stuff is super important. But really the biggest thing in baseball and in athletics in general, I think, is just having confidence. And, you know, I talk to our clients, and they're like, yeah, I think it's working.
Hey guys, welcome back to the booth. As we get towards the end of our virtual presentations today, as we've been working on practicing the strike zone. Where we're going to go to now is one of the modes inside our application. We're standing inside the application. I'm Ryan Bennett here with Dr. Garrett Beatty, our performance science, and we've got Hayden in here that's going to do a little bit of the demonstration for us. But one of the things I'm going to go ahead and let him walk through is how our speed decision can accelerate development inside of our application. So we've got a new mode in here called speed decision. And what it's going to do is, as quick as Hayden can pull the trigger, and you guys will see, they're going to be pitchers making pitches over and over again. I'm going to go ahead and let Hayden demonstrate it. Just let you watch for a second, then we'll let him get through a couple pitches, and then Dr. Beatty and I will break it down for you. As you can see, he's inside our app. He's just clicking right through, really easy or user-friendly. There you go. He's going to pick the time there in which they're in between. They're going to throw pitches, and then he's going to jump in there. And while he's doing that, Hayden, before you go, I think it's a great question, Dr. Beatty, and we can specifically talk about this. How do you maximize results of a college team? How much should my players use this? we had a question earlier before, is what do we recommend individually? How many pitches should a player see a week? I'll start with that, and then I'll talk about maximizing the college team, and then get into some of the data we've seen from a lot of the college programs around the country. At minimum, we recommend your players individually should see about 240 pitches a week. You know, when you can get in there, we look at it being more consistent than just getting in there at one session or one segment and seeing 240. So as we talked about earlier, right, it's the frequency in which you're in there seeing these pitches, training your mind as well as the body to get used to that type of speed and really practice pitch recognition and plate discipline. So how do you maximize the results of a college team? We have a performance team here that works individually with your college, and there's a couple ways we do it, and I'll talk in a general term, and then I'll let Dr. Beatty get into the specifics. Is we will assign and work with you guys to assign training programs. Could be individually or could be for your whole college team, right? So we know, depending on who your college team is, hey, this week going into our weekend series in an in-conference game, this is what the pitchers will look like. You know, we got a Friday night starter that's a big 6'4" right-hander. It's going to be throwing 93, 94, 95. We got a soft lefty on Saturday, and then we've got a Sunday pitcher. So we can set individual training assignments up for each individual player, and or we can set up team assignments, right? Everybody go through the same team assignments and make sure we're training that way. The other thing we do, and a lot of colleges have done, is create leaderboards. We talked about a little bit last segment, is create that competition amongst teammates where they're going in there and seeing how consistent am I, how disciplined am I in there getting to see pitches when I'm supposed to, and then what are my results. You know, we've got a back-end dashboard that collects all the data, makes it readily available right after the session, and then we can also compile that data, and you as a coach can see, you know, here's my 15 hitters, here's what hitter 1 through 15 is doing, here's their results. The other thing we can do, I think we all got players on our team or have had players on the team that big boy can really handle fastball, struggles recognizing breaking balls. A lot of guys struggle recognizing breaking balls. We can set those specific training programs to those individual areas where you want your player to work. So I hope that answers a little bit of it. And then Dr. Beatty, maybe to add in, how in the past have we helped maximize results of college team?
Yeah, definitely, Ryan. You know, you touched on a couple good points. You know, there's the technical component of it where your batters and your teams can get better by seeing more pitches, by interacting with the various training modes that we have and train those subcomponents that a batter needs to train to get better at recognizing pitches and making the right decisions at the right time. And then there's another component when you start looking at teams, and that's, you know, how do we maximize the output of this group of individuals? And one of the things that we just know from the science in the space is that the more, particularly in sports, the more that groups are competing, the more they're going to be motivated to put in maximal effort. And really, the more output you're going to get out of whatever it is that training session is. So our system allows the batters to actually compete in a way that, you know, before is not all that accessible because of all of the data that we have. We can see performance outcomes on the various training modes, but you also get that real-time visualization. And it's even possible for players on the same team to watch the other players competing with just like you're seeing right now with the broadcast of that experience. So you get that camaraderie that builds from that. You get the benefit of the motivational components of competition. And you can also, you know, start to build in that intergroup, us against the world part of competition that's really important, and build that team chemistry around that. But when you look at the technical component as well, and you look at how valuable this is, you know, the system really has, you know, the ability to train players or to allow players to train at speed, at game speed, pitch recognition, decision-making, timing, and zone awareness throughout the entire year, regardless of whether it's in season, out of season, or any, you know, unplanned stoppages in play, whether that be injury, whether that be just schedule components. And one of the things that we've seen that's been really important is in the science world, we call that that time period where skills get worse during off-season skill decay. You can call it skill regression, but we know that when you stop doing something, even if you were really good at it before, you're going to get a little bit rusty. And so what we've seen with the college programs that have adopted our system and used it over the offseason, they hit the ground running. So when the season starts, they're at a much closer offensive productivity and offensive output compared to their season average the year prior. Or if we look at it relative to the College World Series participants, and then we look at our clients versus their peers in their conferences, our clients are always much closer to that in season, that maximal output that you see once things really get going and started. So really the key is to get your players training year round and get them engaged. And our system helps them by making it more fun, getting them more reps at volume, from seeing more pitches that are lifelike and game-like, and really building that competition within the team that's really conducive to that team chemistry that you're looking for as coaches.
Yeah, and the only other thing I'd add to it, right, is as a team, and we look at the team, there's only 9 guys that are playing every day. And there's usually 2 or 3 guys that are fighting for positions. And unfortunately, I went through that when I got to the minor leagues, right? You're getting at bats once a week, but yet you're competing against a guy or expected to try to perform against a guy that's getting at bats every day. So when we look at the team aspect of it, that guy that's maybe the 10th or 11th or really battling for those 2 or 3 spots in the lineup, it gives them the ability to stay fresh, to continue to work on seeing pitches, stay in rhythm and timing, because that's the difficult thing to do, right? If you're not getting at bats every day, it's tough to get in there and be on time and pick out pitches. Pitch recognition and plate discipline is the first thing to go. You just hadn't gotten the volume. So really great question. I think it was Garrett that asked us from visiting the booth. Appreciate the question. Any other questions you guys may have, feel free to fire them out at us and we'll be happy to address them. So we're going to go ahead and have Hayden start the app, and you guys can see here really the speed decision we were talking about, the speed mode, which really accelerates development. And what we're doing here is training the mind really subliminally to see as many pitches as quickly as we possibly can over and over again. And as he gets in there, I'll go ahead and be quiet and let you guys watch for a second. Great, and what you could see here as he's going through it, right? He set the timing, and as you can see, and he's pulling the trigger if it's a strike, and if it's not a strike, just like we would in the game, we don't pull the trigger, right? You hear coaches all the time, pull the trigger, let it go, let the bat fly. Same type here. He's pulling the trigger as he's training his brain, and if you'll scooch out of the way just a little bit there, so, right, you could see, you guys can't quite see the dashboard, but you'll see we're doing sets of 20. And then there's a dashboard in there that will give him, as we've talked all along, that real-time feedback. Garrett, address a little bit of the science, and I'll get out of the way there, your window, of speed training, accelerating development, this mode in particular, and how it helps hitters get better at practicing the strike zone.
Yeah, I always think a good way to think about it is really just to think about the way the brain adapts to whatever experiences we have in the world. So when it comes to training in any task, your brain's going to adapt. The connections between the neurons in your brain are going to be basically optimized to do whatever task you're trying to do. And so in a similar way to how muscles respond to loading, the brain is going to respond to loading. It's just the loading is different. It's not force loading, adding weight or adding mass to help you fight gravity or help you fight forces in different vectors. Instead, what we're doing here is we're adding cognitive loading, or we're increasing the task demands to make it actually harder than it would be in the real world, and force the brain really to look for ways to optimize the efficiency of making the correct decision at the right time. The other benefit of this is, in addition to kind of, if you will, that conditioning standpoint or perspective of this, is it's also just seeing more pitches at volume at a high rate. Another term for this is contextual interference. Like, obviously you look at this and you're like, my player's never going to see this in the real world. What's the benefit of this? And that's actually what the benefit of this is that it is a real pitcher. The real pitcher's throwing real pitches that are flying across in three-dimensional space, but we're changing the task enough that it's creating an added level of difficulty, but still representing the real world task enough to where the batter's getting challenged and trained in such a different way that the batter's brain is going to have to adapt over time and figure out ways to do it more efficiently and more effectively. And what that's going to do is optimize or facilitate faster automatization of that decision-making process that they're trying to get really good at. And so it's going to accelerate in a couple ways. One is they're just training in a fresh way. And the other way it's going to accelerate skill acquisition, again, is the pitch volume is obviously faster. I mean, you see a volume of pitches in such a short amount of time, and then you can repeat that over and over again.
Hayden, if you go ahead and go through on more, and we may continue to kind of talk through what we're working on here. We talk about this, and right, how important, you talk with hitting coach, and hitting's all mental, and as Dr. Beatty, just addressed, really overload in the same way you would almost do negative reps in lifting, right? And what we're doing here is really putting, in my interpretation, really pushing the brain, I think the first couple of times you told me about contextual interference, I had to research it and see what that meant, but dive into that and why contextual interference. You touched on it a little bit, but really what does that mean and what we're trying to accomplish, and not just this mode, but really a lot of our modes inside our application.
Yeah, so contextual interference, the kind of the cleanest way to describe it is if you have a task, let's say the task is, driving down the road. Whenever you've automated everything, you've got an automatic transmission, you've got, cruise control. You really don't have to do that much, and you're not paying that much attention. And so your brain's on this automatic mode. The only thing it has to pay attention to is keeping the car between the lanes and not hitting whatever it is in front of it. So the brain can do that pretty easily. What we're essentially saying is let's not train in that capacity what you have the ability to do in the real world now with all the technology. Instead, what we're saying is let's go back and take it back a little bit to the manual transmission where you're having to worry about the clutch and the accelerator and the stick shift and maintaining your speed and worrying about what's around you in your environment. And by doing that and challenging the brain that way to pay attention to all of that extra information and being able to learn how to do that automatically and do that efficiently, then when you transition into another environment that doesn't have all of that noise and all of those distractions there, you're already one step closer to being able to pay attention to the information that matters at that moment in that time point. So basically, we're creating a lot of noise in the environment and forcing the batter that if they're going to do well on this, they really have to hone in their attention, and their brain has to learn how to do this as efficiently as possible.
You bring something up, and it's just kind of a personal story, right? Having a discussion with my son the other day, and I told him because I don't want him to text, I'm going to buy him a stick shift, right? For us of those setting, I'm not driving no stick shift, but it's a really good analogy there, right? When you think about contextual interference and what we're doing in speed training and accelerating the mental part of the game, or the mental part of hitting, really. And we all know that 95% of hitting is the mental part. At some level, the physical, you're going to peak physically. We continue to work to get stronger, but we're all born with a certain skill set physically and how good we can get. What we can continue to develop and what we're working on developing is that mental part of the game, right? How do I make decisions? How quick can I make a decision? How consistently can I make decisions? As Dr. Beatty just said, with distractions going on around us, how can I stay focused and not be distracted? A couple of real life examples, I remember throughout playing was there were certain times being in the boxes, it was as if nobody else was out there but me and the pitcher. I didn't see anybody. And then there were other times when I was in the box, it felt like I could hear somebody chewing popcorn in the stands. Or I'd look out in the field and think, oh my gosh, look at all these guys out here. No matter where I hit the ball, they're going to catch it, right? And some of that, as we understand now, is just the lack of focus or be able to get in the zone and put yourself in the box. And so when we look at training, not just in speed training, but in win in general, is getting a consistent routine when I'm going to get in the batter's box with a clear mind that's focused really on one thing. Not mechanics, not hands back, not foot down, where are my hands at or where my elbow. I'm on autopilot, right? We've trained so much. We've seen so many pitches and had so many reps and volumes that I'm thinking one thing. See a pitch I can handle and be aggressive and put the barrel on it. And so when we work with teams, individuals, players of all levels, it's developing that routine, and in virtual reality, it's easy to get there. Again, you guys see us standing in the app, but when you put on this headset, we immediately throw you into a game situation. I mean, you're in the box, you're facing a pitcher, and it's go time. I talked about it. If you guys visited with us last year at ABCA, we had college coach after college coach on the floor. I was getting a little nervous. We had to take the bats out, but just taking hacks, getting up there, oh, I got him. And they would immediately go back, and you could tell, and a couple of them even said it, like, this puts me right back in the box. You know what I would have done, how often I would have used this if I was still playing. And when we talk to teams now or individual players, it's really setting the standard. We talked about it earlier. There's no other way to get these reps in. There's nobody that can go out and throw you 250, 300 pitches a week at 95 miles an hour. And if you're in high school, nobody can go out and throw you 250, 30 pitches, 300 pitches a week at 80 miles an hour. You just don't have ability to get those type of reps any other place. Now, the good thing for us is technology's caught up with us from a hardware perspective. Hayden, you can see using it completely standalone, no wires. Within 2 minutes, you saw him click through the menu. He's in the middle of Winfield. He's in a batter's box and facing a pitcher. So we've created this real world environment, brought it to a virtual environment to really help push the mind. I'll steal it because I feel like I know what I'm talking about, to create contextual interference, right? To help and put overload. Overload the brain, just as Dr. Betty referred to, we would overload weightlifting, right? Sometimes you're just gonna put too much information in and it'll help you get better. What we've done here at Win and continue to do is develop the app to create real world situations that really focus on the mental part of hitting, the decision-making part, practice in the strike zone, getting myself in a good position to make good swings. This segment really was on the speed training and development, as you've seen several of our modes today. And if you haven't, I'm sure we're gonna go ahead and republish them, or you guys can feel free to visit us on our WinU. If you go to our website page, winreality.com, there's a WinU section. And there's probably 10 or 15 different videos on there. Occlusion, release point, as you saw, speed decision, swing decision, they're all on there. The other thing we will be talking about tomorrow, we couldn't be more excited about, we waited till the end of the day, we're not far away from releasing our beta. Our CEO and founder, Chris O'Dowd, will do the keynote tomorrow morning, and he's gonna talk about our beta program rolling out. We'll be one of the first, we will be the first company in the world to have real contact inside of a virtual reality application. As important, and we believe as important it is to really stay focused on the pitch recognition, practice in the strike zone. Our customers, all the way from big leaguers, all-star big league guys, down to our little guys that want to play, want to be able to swing the bat in the zone, right? It's the funnest part about it. Let me get in there and see what I can do. So if you've had a chance to visit with us today, I think you'll really enjoy Chris's talk in the morning about where the industry's at and where it's going. We're going to go ahead every 30 minutes, close down the segment, wrap it up, and we'll be back in about 3 to 5 minutes, probably take us to the home stretch at 3 o'clock. Any questions you guys may have, or if you want any more personal demonstrations, we're always available. We'll be around most of the evening. You can reach out to us directly at info@WinReality, or of course, if you're in the booth here, you could just schedule a time to talk with one of our player development reps, and we'll walk you through everything you guys need. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you visiting with us. We'll turn around here in about 5 minutes and wrap it up for the day. Hey guys, welcome back to our booth here at ABCA. Winding down day one, I can tell you in the virtual environment, I hope you guys have enjoyed it. We've been on this side of the screen. Last year, of course, we were all interacting and mingling, and I think at this point in the show, getting ready to have a little fellowship over a couple beverages and talk baseball and old stories. So we're looking forward to that next year. Hopefully we can be back in person. We're going to recap a couple of things. One of the questions we go through and get asked all the time, well, who's using Win Reality? We've got just under 20 big league teams that use Win Reality, over 100 actual big league players that use Win Reality, and then a significant amount of colleges, high schools, academies, even select programs. So as we're in our virtual office here, what we're going to do is just take a break and let it run and give you guys a chance to see all the programs, whether it be a Power 5 conference program and some of the most prestigious big names, down to some of the Division II, Division III schools that maybe we haven't heard of. So we're all over the board from the people that work with us and use us and benefit from Win. I'll go ahead and let that video run, and then we'll come back here and visit in a second. Amount of coaches and thank all those guys for working with us, right? Last year as we came in ABCA, we had an enormous response and a bunch of programs, tons of programs, really jumped at the chance and the opportunity and got it right away. Certainly we wish we were in person. If you guys had the chance to experience Win Reality, to put the headset on, to get in there and see pitches, you absolutely get it. We can tell you this. We've had 100% retention, and so our clients continue in year after year, and now at this point getting more headsets for more players is really the confidence they have in us, and we're really happy and fortunate that we've gotten this market adoption, the confidence they have in us and the trust they have in us to create a tool that will ultimately help them get better. When we look at the college level, and Dr. Beatty, I may get some of these a little bit off, but what we found is, I believe, college conferences, every single Power 5 college conference, title was decided by 1.5 games or less, right? And then we did the data, and I may get a little wrong, not being exactly on the data, but then we did the data to look at the people that used our system, I believe, as a team, improved 2.5, I got that right, Dr. Beatty, 2.5 wins per season, okay? So if you think about that, 2.5 wins per season is a conference championship, right? Is a chance at the bigger schools to go ahead and to get into the College World Series playoffs format. For any school, 2.5 games is a chance to win your conference. So we want to talk about and show you guys, and it's on our website, who's using us. We don't have all the high schools on there. We can continue to add to this and put more of the high schools on there. But we've had great market adoption. I think it's easier now than ever to use Win Reality. Really, really good price points. We listened to you guys last year. We realize budgets are tight and tough, and we want to be able to help everybody out we can. If you want to see if we can work something out with your program, feel free to reach out to us, talk to the guys. We'd love to get you guys started. I think once you get it in your hands and start using it, you guys will completely understand. A question we get from the audience is, can a catcher use this? Absolutely. I was a catcher, fortunate enough to be around a lot of great catchers. My brother Gary Bennett caught in the big leagues for 10 years. You can sit behind the plate, and we're using a controller, but you would squat right behind the plate. And what it'll help you with, right, is beating the ball to its spot. And so when you work on, working around the zone and framing balls or really beating the ball to a spot and getting them a good look, you can absolutely use this. There's not any separate hardware that comes along with it that you would put in a glove. We've had some people ask us about that. What about creating different hardware where they can have it in the glove and see that motion as we work through the strike zone? The other thing, anything in the works, got another question, anything in the works for other positions? We really focus on practice in the strike zone, on the strike zone. The best part of baseball is hitting, well, when you're hitting good. Sometimes it's not the best part when you're not hitting good. It's the worst part. Please don't put me in there. Not necessarily specific position-wise. We've had pitchers reach out to us, can you help me from a pitching perspective as well? Our focus really, and we want to set the standard, continue to set the standard for it, is focusing on the offensive part of the game, focusing on the visual part of the game, the rhythm and timing, making sure we're preparing hitters to get better. And that's where we're going to keep our focus. Not saying we wouldn't look at other positions, but at this time, really looking, as I said before, if you're a current customer, thinking about being a customer, we love where our app's at. Hitting beta is coming out January 18th. That will continue to evolve. You'll be able to actually take swings, and not just swing decision, did I swing at a strike or swing at a ball? Did I make contact and what that looked like? The other things to touch on, I think, as we're wrapping this up. Garrett, did I miss anything there? Okay. The other thing I think to wrap on, we spent a lot of time today working through the progression, right? How do I practice the strike zone? I think a question I get asked a lot, and it's been a little bit perplexing to me, even with really educated baseball people, baseball guys, is, well, I see it's seeing the pitches, but, I want to hit. I just want to be able to swing the bat. I think and we know that, but there's a lot of great technology out there on swing path and bat path. The key to hitting, and we went through this in the beginning, look at all the data. There's one determining factor that separates good hitters from not so good hitters. That separate a guy getting on the baseball field or sitting on the bench. That separate a player from playing in high school or playing in college. Separates a player from playing in college, playing professionally, and in the big leagues. That one determining factor is, do I swing at strikes and not swing at balls? So we're laser focused on bringing the best product we can with the best hardware and the best software to make sure we're focused on the offensive side of the ball, to make sure our hitters are prepared as they can, as confident as I can, have put the work in, as convenient as you can, right? Not driving around, and hitting coaches are great. We work with a lot of great hitting coaches, but not worrying about, hey, can I get my kid to his hitting lesson? You can practice anywhere, anytime on the most important aspect of hitting, and that is practice in the strike zone, dominating that plate, and making sure if a pitcher throws it over that white dish, we let them know it. We're comfortable, we're confident, we're in rhythm, we're on time, and we put the barrel on the ball in a consistent fashion. As we look to wrap down, or wrap up, wrap down, wrap up and down, our first day at ABCA, I mentioned it earlier, Dan O'Dowd joined us earlier, founder, chairman of the board, former general manager of the Colorado Rockies. Most of us here, customer facing, played college and professionally. If you have any questions, any customer feedback, anything you guys want us to address, a lot of what we've done around hitting is listen to our customers. We want to continue to do that in 21 and beyond. We want to continue to bring the best technology, the best software to you guys that you can use anywhere to continue to get better and continue to be better hitters. Dr. Beatty, I stole him today for what was supposed to be about a segment or maybe two, and he stuck with me through, what did he say? He's going to finish a game, give us a full 9 innings, which isn't common in baseball. Anything else you want to kind of wrap it up and part as we wrap up day one?
Yeah, I think, some of the things that have been recurring throughout all of our sessions is how important training is at volume. So just getting more and more volume. And the one thing that's so limited in baseball is seeing real life, full speed game pitches, that fly across the zone. And without virtual reality and without win reality, that's not really possible to get a whole ton of reps in that space. So that's huge, a huge component. And one of the things that's come up multiple times and really kind of piggybacking off of what you just said is how important it is for batters to be confident. And when you think about what confidence is, it's really, do I have control over this situation? And there's essentially 3 points of control when you think about an at-bat. It's, do I have control over my swing? You get that by reps in the cages, at the tees, just automating your mechanics for your swing. Then there's the control that the pitcher has. Can I put the ball where I want to put it? And then there's that third component that before now, without win reality, that it really hasn't been trained, and it's kind of been that battleground between the pitcher and the batter, and that's who's in control of the decision. And without seeing those pitches, without being able to see enough to be able to say, I know the difference between a strike and a ball. I know the difference between a good pitch and a bad pitch to swing at. And I know that I own this strike zone, and I am disciplined at the plate. Without the ability to practice that, then that third component's up for grab. But what win reality really gives batters the ability to do is to be confident in that space as well. When they own the strike zone, when they know what's coming, when they can see what's coming earlier out of the pitcher's hand, it buys them so much time to then be able to execute those swing mechanics that they've worked so hard to refine and really take the physical part of it and leverage that to be incredibly productive on the field. And that's what we've seen in our system. Batters get better at differentiating pitch types. They get better at making those decisions sooner. They get better at making good decisions. So making decisions to swing at strikes and not swing at balls. And then we see that translate to the field. Their plate discipline in the real world increases. Their on-base percentage, their OPS, their runs scored as a team increases and wins go up, just like you talked about, Ryan. And ultimately, as a coach, there's not that many goals that you have. You want your players to get better. You probably want them to have a good time, and you want them to have the opportunity to win as many games as possible. And this can be a very important and critical component to how you help leverage your players' abilities to do that.
Great. Well said. I think we've got a couple minutes left here. Can't appreciate Dr. Beatty joining us enough and spending the day with us. Appreciate you guys coming and spending. I know there's a lot of information, a lot of different virtual booths you guys can visit. We're going to be here. I mentioned this several times. We'll be here all evening. You can either reach out to us and schedule time to visit with and get more of a personal demo anytime. If it's fits your schedule later in the afternoon, early evening, late evening, we're around, available to talk. Set this time aside to make sure we're available for you guys. Any questions you may have? How can we help you, your program, your players get better on the offensive side of the ball? Again, Chris O'Dowd, our CEO founder, will be talking about the state of the industry as a whole tomorrow as we look at baseball and technology, all the data points, where it's at, where we are, and where we're going. Really enjoyed spending time with you guys today. although we're in a virtual environment, I wish we were together as we were last year. Any questions, feel free to reach out. We will be back tomorrow, starting the same thing. Tomorrow, we'll move away and get, again, more from practicing the strike zone and more. Today was more data-driven with Dr. Beatty. We're going to really get in our app a lot tomorrow and talk after Chris is talking, talk about what's coming as far as hitting in the beta hitting program in virtual reality. Thanks a lot from the whole team here. I forgot to mention, I should give a shout out to Jesse, our Director of Innovation. He's been sitting behind producing this whole thing. I'm sure if you guys have visited other booths, not a whole lot of companies can do what we've done in this virtual reality environment, whether it be in our office or in our Win Rally field. Big thanks to Jesse for setting this all up, and look forward to visiting with you guys tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks, Doctor.